Wow, how did this happen? This is insane. Well, the Geometry Dash Mini Wave Object Hitbox is so small that it's only about a dot. But that doesn't make this easy. In fact, it gets way harder. I mean way harder. In fact, this will probably be the hardest theoretically possible level ever, so stick around. First, here is a diagram about how the Mini Waves hitbox works. See how it's so small, it can fit in the objects as long as you click fast enough, but for that you would have frames per second the same number as Age's Siki.
Now to make it even harder, you could make it 4 times speed with a time warp, making it 2 times as fast, and at that point you will need a frames per second count as high as an estimate of 2 trillion, and almost each one is a frame perfect. That is if this setup I'm showing was correct. Unfortunately my phone doesn't go to 2 trillion frames a second, so to show it I had to nerf it, mainly because a lot of this is theoretical but also could be possible. It gets harder than that though. Way harder. To make it harder than that, we can add the purple dash orbs facing down, and that probably makes like 90% of the clicks frame perfects. But it gets harder. If you wanted to go farther, you could make the blocks go up and down in a smooth and curved way, which just makes it way harder, because now you need to control the spam while being at 2 trillion frames per second, while 90% of them are frame perfects. If you wanted to go farther, you could maybe add speed changes, but this would in a way nerf it. So we want this needs to be as hard as possible, but to push it farther you could make everything impossible to see and add no sound to make it impossible to tell where you are. Now by this point you have to memorize everything, while having the insane frame perfects, while having your gravity constantly change, while you basically need to control your wave to go in a swing copter motion, while your hitbox be 1 pixel away from dying on all sides 24/7. Now you might think, Master, that seems impossible. How could you do all that? Well, that's the thing you want, but it's still theoretically possible. Off it, you think we were done? No. We're just getting started. If you read this comment, it says that the sun has some kind of radioactive thingy McGiggle that can change ones and zeros in your device. And if this 1 or 0 has anything to do with your player's Y position, it can change it to a random part. Now with this in mind, let's get another diagram, and this time we use this, and whenever it changes, which just for reference this is like 1 in a Googleplex of happening, and if this happens and it also happens to be on the correct pixel that it needs to teleport to, then you can continue, which sure it's luck based and stuff, but I don't care. It's my video. It'll make this level as impossible as possible, if that makes sense. So let's also make this happen every half second, and also remember you can't see during all this, but at this point you're not a human playing anyways, and even robots can't beat this unless the luck is just right. Here is that this would look like so. If this wasn't already as impossible while being theoretically possible as well, let's make it even harder, and by like a lot. Right now we need to use the 2 trillion FPS to make the level harder. Let's make it somehow have a random trigger to trigger with a 99% chance to kill you every frame, and since we're playing at 2 trillion FPS, the chances of us living for even just half a second is astronomically small.